Hello and welcome to this Swift UI video. My name's David Thorne. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to persist data or images using the file manager and also using data. You could do both ways. But essentially what we have right here is we have a simple view, an unsplash image view. I've just created it. Let's just have a quick talk through this, and we are basically downloading the URL for this one unsplash image, and then we are populating this one image property in here, and when it does exist, it's displaying the image as you can see here, and when it doesn't exist, it's displaying this one text here, or it's displaying the error first or the loading. And yeah, that's basically it. So what we want to do here is we know that every single time this one photo, all right, with this specific ID, and this is the photo here, we're just loading it from the file system, all right. Okay, so we're just loading this unsplash image view here for this photo example using the large one by default, all right. So when we come in here, it's saying type is thumb, and we're displaying the large one by default, which is then the full size, right? If we change this to raw, right, we should see some loading now, and you can see some loading. So we'll put this back to large. Whoops. Put this back to full. It is, and you see that we see some loading because it's doing this request every single time, right? And this is what we want to stop happening. We want to stop this loading from happening, or we want to reduce the time it takes from happening to be as small as possible, right? And it's so the time should be less than the time it takes for our eyes to recognize it. And we're going to do that using the we're going to persist this data. So when we receive this request back with the image data, we receive this one data. So the easiest way to do this is to use the actual data itself and say write to a URL, right? And let's just say cache URL here first of all, and make this a bit bigger, and we can get rid of this now. We don't need it. We'll just say cache URL, and we'll come in here and say the file path. Whoops, file path here, and this is where we now need the actual path, right? We're just going to say cache path here, and we'll plus onto this then the photo ID, all right? And on the end of this one photo ID, we'll just give it a suffix of the type that we did, right? We said large or and so on here. So rather than, we can just change this image type here to be string instead. And we'll just say thumb, just for the sake of simplicity here, regular. We don't really need to do this, but, and large. And now we can use the raw value instead on the end of this. And we can say type raw value. So at least we're distinguishing between which URL we did, because the photo ID can have multiple URLs. All right. So now we have this cache URL, but we don't have this cache path. Where are we actually going to save this to? Well, we're going to use the file manager default, and then just use URLs, and then the caches directory. And this is going to be for the user domain mask. And we're going to take the first one, because on an iOS application, there is only going to be one. If you're going to support other technologies, other platforms, then you're going to need to filter which one you want to use there. So we now have our cache path here. And in our cache path, we need to put a / on the end of it, so our photo ID can go on the end. And then this here as well. This is going to throw, so we have to say try data, and we can wrap this in a do catch block right here, and essentially this image data can get updated immediately, and we can put this dispatch queue global async. We can put this on the background thread, right? We don't need to do this on the UI thread, okay? And we need this data here. That's it. So we now need, let's just do this again. There we go, put that in there, and we can take this out of there again and put this back to here. We don't need this do catch actually here. We can have it with inside this async call, and we're just going to ignore the error. If it doesn't persist, it doesn't persist. Okay, so when we come back to the canvas now, we'll see exactly the same thing happening. We should see the image coming up still, which it does, because we know that the image has been saved, right? But we still need to check. So we're going to have this cache path here. And here we can say if the file manager, so we don't need the file manager again, we'll replace this with a smaller version here. So we'll say file manager default here and just say fs here. And we can use fs again. So if this file exists, this cache path, sorry, we want cache path, and let's just put this back up here again, and let's clean this up. So if this cache URL, and we'll just say path here, cache URL path exists, we don't have to do this session. Okay, we can just replace this session to be loading the data for the image, right? So we can come here now, and because we know it exists, we can say image from UI image, right? Sorry, we can say the data using the contents of the URL, so cache URL, and now we can say the self image, which we're going to self image is going to be then a UI image using that one data. And this is going to throw as well. Right, so let's just wrap this in a do catch block 2. And now when we do this, you'll see that we don't, let's just make some changes to this. You see we don't get any flickering anymore, right? If we change the text in here, we don't get any flickering anymore because we're loading it from disk all the time. Okay, we've got one there. Okay, but we should see on the network, we should be doing no network request anymore because we're getting it from the cache instead. All right, and let's just run this on. Oh, we need to change this over to be an image view here. And we'll change this to be an unsplash. And then photo.example. Okay, so there we go. And here this unsplash image is loading the thumb as by default. All right. So when we look at this, you can see it's not the greatest of images. Let's just run it again and see whether we get any flicker here. And we see we get the image straight away. All right. So let's now come to the regular and run it again, see whether we get any loading. We do. We got loading a little bit. Let's run it again, see whether we get a loading now. And you don't get any loading. So we'll do the final one and the large and run this again. And we get loading, but now it's loaded, all right? And we run it once again. And you can see here, all right? So we'll go back to the large, sorry, we go back to the regular once again. And we run it again, and we'll see that we're never doing any network request here. Okay, and if we just put another one inside of here and say thumb, and put another one in here and say large, and let's run it again and see what happens now. And we get all three images basically instantly. So I hope you've got something out of this one video. It's super simple really to do. It's nothing more. This could be cleaned up naturally. You could make this a lot cleaner and remove this to another class or another handler that could do it for all of them. But ultimately, once you've downloaded the image, you write it to the URL. So I also said that you could do this with the file manager too. Well, here you would just basically say the create file at path with the contents data, and then with these attributes. All right, which one's better is for you to say. You could also, if you really want to go even further, you could use then the file handle for writing and so on. And if you want to go really low level, you could then just use the standard C library write to write that buffer to the file. But there you would have to have a file descriptor. So The question is all about for you which one you want to use, but this data write, the one great thing about here is that we can say that it can be written atomic as well. All right, so you've got a little bit more control about how this data is going to be written to this one URL. Important thing to remember here that we need a file URL with path, because this is a file on the system and it needs to know that it's writing a file. So the protocol, it needs to be correct on this one URL to know where it's writing to. With that said, this is a really simple thing to do, all right? But the amount of effect that it has on your application, not having to reload those images once again. And this is exactly what this caches directory is there for, all right? It's to save those images, and it's to save that data that you don't want to have to reload. You're just using up the user's mobile data. If they're on mobile data, you're costing them money by you reloading the images all the time. Now, as you can see here, you could also, with inside of this one image here, say if this is thumb, right? You could say I'm going to go off and I'm going to load the regular in the background too. All right. So, for example, if you come here and you say I've got this image, then you could go and check also, do I have the thumb image too, right? Or sorry, do I have the regular image too? And if I have the regular image, let's load the regular image instead. If I don't, let's load the thumb first, and then afterwards you could load the regular. So if you're allowed to do one request every single time, then you could then do another request to know that user gets the best view that they possibly get. All right, but that's down to you to how to work it out. All right, but I mean, if it's a thumb, predominantly when you're showing a thumb, it should be small and you shouldn't be doing lots of requests, so it should be the smallest amount of work that you to do. With that said, if you got something out this one video, if you learned something from this one video, then don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and do all of the other social media stuff that you can possibly do. If you've got any questions, feedback, or concerns, anything like that, then feel free to start a conversation in the comment section down below. Yeah, this I was actually going to make another video, but then I realized this in itself was another video. So the likelihood is in the next up and coming videos, you're going to see the usage of this same type of thing as well. With that said, thanks very much for watching. My name's David Thorne. Ciao, ciao, and goodbye.